So hello, welcome back.
Hello, welcome back.
It is the Gutsy Gals, Kate and Andee.
Hello.
And we wanted to do a little update because somebody asked kind of where is Andee at now. So first, my introduction of how it got started and why there's this focus on Andee. I've been doing like the food sensitivity protocol and gut health, but it was always what I consider like easy cases. So people who were just, they had a little bit of joint pain, or maybe they had some just basic IBS and indigestion, migraines. Not that any of these are simple things, and if you're suffering from them, I'm sorry, but they were fairly straightforward to deal with.
And then I came along.
My brother-in-law introduced Andee to me, and I am so grateful because while at the time, so a year ago, I was intimidated by her list of illnesses, by her mystery illnesses, by the complexity of things going on. And if it hadn't been for the fact that she was willing, that we were both very, very willing to be open about the communication, open about limitations, open about experience, and to realize this was going to be kind of a guessing game at times because we need labs, we need this, we need that. It might work, it might not. And Andee just absolutely tackled this head on, and the results we've seen are amazing. And I have since taken on other kind of complex mystery overlapping cases with similar good results, but it's because I had the confidence after I saw how well this could work with Andee. When I have other people who are like, oh, I've got, and they'll list things very similar to Andee. It's like, I can do this. We've got this. There are answers. So I'm very grateful to Andee for like trusting me and kind of working with me on this as well, and being open to discussing it very candidly. And I'm very excited for her to share it with you guys, because also as like, I'm getting more and more people saying, oh, I want to work with you. I have questions. I have a friend working with you. I was referred, da, 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 da. And thank you all to that. I really appreciate the word of mouth spread. It's beautiful. But it's opened my eyes to how many people are suffering from so many things. I used to just focus on IBS. Like that was the focus. And yes, conventional medicine lets down people with IBS a lot of times, but then there's a point where there's these mystery illnesses and overlap, and
bingo.
Like they just kind of, Andee, I guess kind of your team basically at some point just went, we don't know what else to even try.
Yeah.
It's not about, hey, let's change your medicine. Let's try a new med. Hey, try this new diet. They just flat out were clueless from the sound of it. Like,
pretty
wanted
much
to help. They were already fairly progressive and open, but just
we've done. I mean, I had pretty much exhausted the limitations of the conventional medicine practitioners that I was seeing. They were like, oh, we got nothing left that we can try. We got nothing left that we can test for because of insurance regulations and kind of how a lot of that stuff goes. So I had pretty much run out of answers, and they were like, oh, yeah, good luck.
Which made me go like, ooh.
Which made
I usually want a diagnosis I know to deal with, but what I've learned is it all stems from the same thing. Like we talked about in the IBS one, it doesn't matter what your grouping of symptoms are. 9 times out of 10, it is all starting from microbiome, inflammation, GI health, liver health, and adrenal health. Like those three: adrenals, liver, and the gut. So we have been tackling that. So what I wanted to do today with Miss Andee, actually over here when I when I film this, flips, to kind of share her story, because again, this is like a high case scenario, a very complex case, very like polypharmacy and everything going on. So we had people asking like, where is Andee now? Because it started, as a lot of you have heard through these, very restricted, very limited, very difficult. And, so
maybe starting with why.
and why, and kind of like 9 months later, what's happened. So to give hope to other people who are out there who are like, you know, there are no answers. This is me for life. I am my diagnosis. Like, no.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. You are not your diagnosis. And no matter what your physicians have told you, there is going to be room for improvement regardless. And I can tell you this as not only the president, but I'm also a client, you know, the old Size Sperling Hair Club for Men. I mean, Kate, when I started with you, I was almost 190 pounds. And that was after having lost a big chunk, with atrophy and bed rest related. So let's put on the rewind machine, and we'll start with where Andee was.
So the brief little, the summary of your diagnoses, your medications, your pain points.
So diagnoses, I had fibromyalgia, complex hemiplegic migraines, with and without aura, and migraine status migrainosis. Basically, I'd had a migraine for 4 months with no relief. I had hip braces on, I was getting one for the left. I already had one on the right. I was using canes on both sides. I was diagnosed with a hiatal hernia, GERD, fibromyalgia migraines, arthritis everywhere. I had a couple different mental health labels slapped in there as well.
Iron deficiency.
Yeah, I was anemic. I was getting
IBS.
Iron infusions. I had IBS. I had
sinusitis. I'm going through your health history here.
Yeah, sinusitis, tendonitis,
restless leg, periodic limb disorder. Narcolepsy. I think I forgot about that.
Yes, technically I am narcoleptic.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then some brain, white matter lesions. Was that one?
Oh yeah, white matter lesions in my brain. Yep.
So massive amounts of just
we're not talking
things.
Like yes, we're not talking like a short list of issues. We're talking like I had 20 surgeries in the past 7 years prior to starting with Kate. So just to kind of baseline
MTHFR.
Yeah, I have some genetic mutations
in more detail in another one.
Yeah.
So yeah, this host of things that kind of made me want to shy away at first.
Yeah, and 23 meds. I was on 23 meds when I started with you.
Wow.
And symptoms wise, like I said, I had literally had, I mean, when I say I had a migraine for 4 months, like I didn't get out of bed almost for 4 months. I could barely function. I was getting IV infusions at the neurology clinic. I could barely walk because I had 2 hip braces and canes on both sides. I think my symptom score was close to a 200. If we looked at all of the different symptoms. Like that, 186.
I forget. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was a walking train wreck.
Yeah. And so we started just with the food sensitivities and kind of dealing with lifestyle because my theory and my training at the time that has now been repeatedly confirmed with updated science is hit that inflammation and the food sensitivities like first. That is almost always going to be the foundation starting point.
Yep.
And then a GI map stool test. And that is literally all we've done. So we've done 2 labs, worked through the protocols.
Yeah.
So we did the MRT food sensitivity test with LEAP protocol and all the Empowered Healing program. And then when we got done with that, there was already marked improvements.
Oh, huge
improvements with just within that program. And then because things weren't, of course, that list doesn't get fixed in one diet change.
No.
So then we went into the GI map test, found H. pylori, among other things.
Among other things.
But that was probably one of the big things.
That was one of the big ones.
So, and I've since found people now have been working more, parasites are common, C. diff infections. I've got someone, you know, an amoeba, entamoeba, sorry, a little bit different. So yeah, that's very interesting. And I made a post recently about H. pylori, because what I found interesting in your case too, you'd been told you did not have H. pylori.
Correct. I was told I did not have H. pylori. And the problem with that is the traditional test for it only is going to detect if you have H. pylori in your stomach. It is not going to denote if you have H. pylori anywhere beyond your tummy.
Yeah. And it can migrate. So yeah, I don't want to we'll get into H. pylori a lot more in another segment. But just kind of that reminder that unfortunately certain lab tests, like we talked about with the food sensitivity, kind of you get what you pay for. So what insurance can cover sometimes isn't the best option. Now GI Map can do super bills. We can look into that for people who are interested, but it is so critical. Like it is so important. 50% of people have H. pylori. Even if you're not symptomatic, it is easy to pass on to anyone that you are like, that you kiss, like even like kissing your kids on the cheek. It's very passable, and it can become symptomatic in other people. So testing traditionally has involved either blood tests or breath tests, but both of those tend to only catch like recent or acute infections.
Correct.
The scope, but that only looks at one area of your entire GI system, or the fecal test, and that's
where you're going to capture
very unlikely to get a false negative, but it's I'm never going to say 100%, but
I would say it's theoretically plausible.
It's plausible, but because even H. pylori die-off, if it is in the stomach, it's going to get passed, eventually get put in your waste. It's testing for the DNA of it. So it's very much more accurate, precise. So those two tests were what we used to get you to where you are now, along with lifestyle work. And so one of the questions, I mean, among the weight loss, and I know we've also talked before about your just increased energy, and you were just telling me this morning, like you can feel your muscles getting stronger now that you're actually absorbing nutrients and protein, because again, H. pylori screws with your protein absorption. Big problems. We'll talk about that more later. But you're feeling more energized, keeping up with your kids, weight loss, less pain. You're no longer using crutches. You don't have braces really. Going on.
No braces, no crutches. I can walk up the hill to my mailbox, which is not an insignificant thing. And a year ago, I couldn't do it. I no longer get winded running after the almost 3-year-old now. I was telling Kate, I actually have quads again. Like just by living life, I'm gaining muscle because my body can absorb protein, which like, you know, and then, you know, there's also we're the Gutsy gals. There's also the wonderful benefit that I don't poop 7 or 8 times a day anymore. I'm going to the bathroom like 1 to 2 beautiful Bristol forestools, you know, and like,
that's good.
It's huge. I mean, not running to the bathroom 8 times a day is a big deal.
It's huge. That's your energy that you're getting from those calories. That's more time saved. That's less mental stress. Less water and toilet paper costs.
Which, I mean, during the time of COVID, I mean, let's try to reduce that as much as possible because it's already gone up anyway because we're here all the time.
Actually, TP has been stable for a while, thank goodness.
Yeah, TP's been stable for a while.
So and I know we've kind of talked about quality of life before, and I think so what some people have asked is, and I get the question a lot, like, when can I eat this? Will I never be allowed? Do I have to do this forever? And that caveat is something we mentioned in the food sensitivity video. You should never have to restrict those foods for life. Forever. You may have to for a time. So the longer you've been sick, the more damage there is to your GI, the longer it can take. So like I tell people, if you have yellow and red reactive foods on these slabs, depending on the situation, it can alter, but sometimes it can be 3, maybe 6 months minimum before I even want to try bringing those back in for people. But that doesn't mean never. If you've been sick 20 years, it takes time for your body to rebuild.
It'll take a whole lot less than 20 years.
It'll take less than 20 years.
But
so
it might take more than 20 days.
Yes. More than yeah. More than a little, but
Yeah.
it should happen. I mean, the symptoms improve dramatically
Almost
within,
immediately.
our 90 days. We had that improvement. But so yeah, people have been kind of the question is like, what are you able to eat now? So
Yes.
Andee,
So
we've talked about your really horribly restrictive list at
yes,
first.
yes. I was so at first, my diet was completely flipped upside down. It was really restricted. And I really had to pay attention to sticking to some, my early foods for a long time. And here again, in my particular case, I was clearly climbing uphill in a nearly vertical manner. So it took, in my case, probably about 6 months before I could really kind of veer anything beyond, when you talk about the MRT, you got your phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 foods. I had to be very mindful about when I was introducing things and how much I was introducing. And, for me, there are still things that, like, I have a very extensive yellow list of very fairly common things. And for me, like, stacking those things, it's a bad idea still to this day. Like, for me to, like, make a, we'll give you a worst case scenario, a turkey sandwich with spinach and some, like, that would be death for me. Like, a lovely turkey sandwich with some spinach and a cayenne aioli.
Spinach, cayenne, turkey, all triggers for her.
Yeah, all triggers for me, guys. So
no, we don't want to stack your
yellows.
So
stacking the yellows is still a bad idea, but there are things that I can do a little bit of on occasion, and it doesn't bother me in a noticeable manner. So, one of my favorite things was this apple cinnamon tea that had carob in it. Carob's one of my yellows. Well, if I have a cup of that, it's fine. When I was drinking 3 liters of that, like, herbal fruit tea, because it, is sugar free and it's better, and it's just not, it tastes better than water. Well, 3 liters of that a day with all that carob is problematic. A cup on occasion is fine. So I've really been able to get back to a fairly robust and normal diet. There are certain things that I still know that, like, my body just isn't quite breaking it down yet. Like, nuts, I still don't do particularly well with, just because I see that my body is not processing them, but there are other things that are absolutely fine. So it's really, I'm really not terribly restricted anymore, other than the stuff that I know is just going to completely piss my body off anyway. So gluten, dairy, some of those things that are just
the
like
common,
the common
inflammatories. So yeah, I know we've kind of talked about the joke that your starting diet was rainbow trout, mung bean, and butternut squash were kind of your 3 staples. Now,
yep.
There were more options, but that ended up being kind of the staples. So that's
because that was like the absolute lowest. Those were like my
lowest reactives.
Yeah.
And
ate
so
a lot of mangoes.
A lot of mangoes. Well, give me runs. So
mangoes are one of my lowest,
because that's how you started roughly 9 months ago.
Yep.
So what's kind of a typical breakfast, lunch, dinner for you now?
So gosh, breakfast is almost always oatmeal. Just because it's a staple. I can make it in bulk. It's easy, and it's, for me, it's an easy thing, first thing in the morning. Lunch, typically I'll do, some type of, like, a chicken, whether that's with some, I love mashed cauliflower. Oh my God, I eat so much mashed cauliflower.
And that's exciting, because when we started, you were also we had to combine yours with, like, a low FODMAP.
Yeah, I was going to say initially
cruciferous.
Yeah. So I could not do cruciferous vegetables, and now I, like, live on mashed. Like, I love cauliflower, and it's so great to be able to eat broccoli again. you know, so I'll do all kinds of different varieties of like a mashed cauliflower, you know, and then dinner is a little bit of an interesting challenge because we have 3 people who have very different nutritional needs in the house, and dietary restrictions and things that they will eat. But, you know, dinner is...
Well, you got a 3-year-old, they're picky.
Well, a 3-year-old, and then, like, let's face it, I mean, I love my husband, but it's really not a joke that he eats like 7 things, and most of our friends can list them all. You know, we're doing like normal, typical stuff, you know, vegetable and a meat and a protein and, you know, maybe some type of starchy vegetable. But even then, I don't do a ton of those just because I don't necessarily like them a lot. If we do, it's like I'll do like sweet potato slices in the oven. We'll do, you know, I do a lot of different squashes, you know, we do spaghetti squash, we do butternut squash, we do all sorts of different of that kind of stuff. So we have a fairly, I mean, as far as it goes, it's pretty normal. I'm not having, you know, mung bean pasta with rainbow trout and butternut squash 3 days a week.
Staples.
Yeah, but you know what? But the thing is, I've really also, I love butternut squash. It's hands down one of my favorites. So you know, when my tummy's upset, if it does get upset, which is pretty rare, it's still nice to know that I have like a set of known foods that I can just, here, let me go back to what I know is easy and what I know my body likes.
Like if something else is triggering inflammation, like stress or some of your procedures or you know, things going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, inflammation is not just food, it's about lifestyle. But so any of those can trigger it too, and kind of, you know, we feel it when we're stressed, when we're angry, like stomach gets upset, stomach gets nervous, that's cortisol damage, etc. So that's really cool. So you kind of, I would ask about how eating out is, but you know, we're in a pandemic, so I don't think
you know, so
too much.
We're not doing a whole lot of that, but here again, it's pretty ezy. Like the biggest thing is asking for, like, I always have to be like, can I have your gluten-free menu, you know? But even then, it's nice that pretty much anything on the menu, I can be like, oh, well, what's in that? Can you leave it off? Yeah.
So at this point, would you say, and again, 9 months, we're still growing, there's still more tests Andee and I want to run and optimize, but I mean,
well, and I was
9 months to get your life back, basically.
Yeah, 9 months to get my life back. And I mean, literally, I went from, I mean, truly, it was like, well, I'm either gonna die or I'm gonna kill myself. One of these 2 things is gonna happen because I can't live like this forever. And physicians, if you're not going to help me, I will fucking find someone who will. And that someone was Kate. And like, I'm a completely different
I will find your mystery illness root cause.
Yes. And that's the thing. I mean, really,
after finding something that another client like you was very mystery and sick of procedures and tests and labs and surgeries, and we found stuff and I was so excited. I mean, I felt bad, like we found some nasty stuff, but it is answers that we can then address and deal with. And
and that's the biggest thing, the answers. And because this was stuff that, like, I knew we should be, why don't we check my poop? Why aren't we running like food allergy testing? Can I run? Can I? And everybody was like, no, we're kind of at the end of what we can do. Good luck.
Yeah. So I hate to kind of harp too much, but it just keeps coming back. Conventional medicine has their place. They're great at what they do, but they have limits.
Bell curve, middle.
They have limits. And everybody,
80%.
I have my own limits too. I actually just recently networked with a doctor because I can't prescribe things. And for certain things, such as parasites, I don't want to, as we put it, I don't want to pussyfoot around with herbs if you've got a parasite. So there are limits to what I can do and what I think is best. And I acknowledge that and refer out for those. I just wish sometimes conventional medicine would realize that even if they hit a limit, that they don't go, there's nothing else in the world. Like that they could say, this is all we are trained in. This is what we specialize in. This is what we can do. there are other things, but they're not really, I don't know if it's they're not allowed to, or it's kind of just not trained into them, or I know a lot of them think what I do is quackery, but the science is there. It's just,
and that's the real kicker of this, is that for me, you know, with the biomedical informatics research and kind of what I'm doing from a business perspective, I know that literally we can take plants and use them as medicine. Like the phytonutrients and phytochemicals can literally be used as medicine. So it was like, there has got to be, I mean, to be looking at all of the data and all of the articles and all of the publications and all of the stuff that was like, this information's out here, why aren't we treating people with this? Like, how do I get access to be able to do this? It's really kind of working outside of that. You know, the bell curve of conventional medicine is great for 80%, but if you're on these two little wings of statistical outliers, then you know, it may not be a conventional medicine answer. And the fact that the data supports that, and the fact that so many of these conditions are truly just related to inflammation and body cellular processes that can be mitigated with reducing inflammation.
Yeah. And I know while you were going through your program, you were able to wean off certain medications.
Oh God, yeah.
How is that all looking?
I'm down to only a handful of meds that I need to take more for like neurological seizure control stuff for now. I'm actually working on that too.
Nice.
That's a different conversation for a different time, after Kate and I filter out our positions on some other therapeutics. If you're interested, we can talk about that another time. Feel free to message me. But you know, I'm down to about 5 meds a day. I completely got off. I'd been on a PPI we used to play PPI roulette and change it about every 3 or 4 months. And I'd been on it for over 20 years. I was also on an H2 blocker, and I was taking another GI med on top of it to just keep the heartburn at bay. Mm-hmm. And now I take 0 of those meds for GI upper issues. What else have I been able to cut back and get off of? I mean, like, I'm off of my anti-inflammatory. I've gotten off of a bunch of different muscle relaxers and other neuroregulators for a pain modulation perspective. I've decreased and changed up my antidepressant. I mean, it's just a completely different situation than it was 9 months ago. Completely different.
What's your goal for 9 months from now? You know, tackle that.
9 months from now. So this is the end of the year. So Kate, you can hold me to this. I'll do the hot chocolate run with you.
Isn't that in the winter? I hate running in the cold.
I know it is. It's a 5K.
I don't want to do that.
Well, we don't have to run it. We could always just...
That's a little warmer at least.
All right. Maybe we'll do a turkey. Well, okay. So here's the goal then. I'll make the goal that we'll do a 5K before the end of the year.
Deal.
Which with 2 hip replacements... Guys, I have 2 hip replacements, and I'm going to try to run a 5K by the end of the year. So I know people do it all the time, but considering that a year ago I literally couldn't walk.
I've got to get those before, and I'll try to put the before and after pictures here at the end of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's exciting.
There we go. So that's really kind of the thing, because, you know, it's getting to the point where I feel like I can start doing that kind of stuff again. And that's huge.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. That's quality of life. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. Like having energy, having the ability to move more, keep up with your family. Function.
That was a nice one. Food. Just like being able to function without like a screaming migraine was a big, I mean, that in and of itself was like, check, if nothing else, like we have achieved success. I no longer have a migraine. Like that in and of itself was great. everything else since then has just been like, oh, good, more. I love this.
Good. And I love it. And that's, I'm very fortunate to get to love what I do and be passionate about learning and always learning, constantly watching new research and webinars and lectures and learning and trying to streamline more and more. Because I do think we all have, we all deserve to feel good. Like, life is hard enough. Let's not let diagnoses burden us even more. Yeah,
exactly. There's no, you are not your disease. And I promise anybody, like, I will make this promise. You can throw this on me. If I can get better, I mean, truly, and all my physicians have been like, don't come back, like, get away, like, stay away, please. Like, you've done such a great job. Like,
you don't need us anymore.
You don't need us. Stay away. Like, don't come back. It's fine. You have done amazing things that we didn't think that we could do. Keep doing those. So I figure when your GI doctor says, like, I don't think I need to see you anymore, and you're like, well, good, because I was firing you anyway. It kind of works out nicely. So,
love it. Yeah. And if
you have the power.
What I usually, like, I'll tell people, like, you have to, this is a strange way to say it, like, but you have to be, like, invited to my program. And I don't mean that in an exclusive way, but I mean it as in, I'm not gonna encourage it if I don't believe it's going to get amazing results. And for those, if it doesn't, and you're legit doing it, because it is a strict program, one, I mean, it rules out something, and two, it gives us a lot more information, and I will figure it out.
She's tenacious, guys. Like, and on top of it, like, she's a really good researcher, and
I'm a little obsessive at times, but there are answers.
Only a little obsessive girl that just got the Sherlock hat. Only a little obsessive about finding answers. There's a reason.
I love Sherlock. Especially when played by Benedict.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, especially when played by Benedict, but it's more the answer finding. That's the cool part.
I grew up, I loved Indiana Jones. I loved all the puzzle games. I am a Myst fanatic. I watch Jeopardy because I'm old, I guess.
You're a Myst fanatic?
I loved Myst.
Me too.
Shocked. I'm not surprised.
I was going to say, shocked.
Who's shocked? I'm that old person who likes to watch Jeopardy every night. Like,
it's okay. My best was,
side note, I'm horrible at geography and history, but I usually rock the science.
I was keeping up with Ken for a while. There were a couple episodes that I actually got the questions that Ken Jennings didn't. So I at the time I felt really accomplished.
No, I definitely when it comes to knowledge of things, like, I'll joke, other people have, like, this beautiful, like, pool of information. They have knowledge of so much.
Well?
And I have a well. I'm like, I don't know anything about geography, history, social sciences, like Shakespeare. But I study this hardcore, constantly. Have been in the nutrition world since 2000, I guess is when 2002 maybe. I started studying pretty early. And so, and it just gets deeper and more fascinating as research explodes.
Well, and let's be honest, it's not just a well at this point. It's expanding.
Well with all the diatribes. And that's we should probably wrap it up because I could just go on forever about what I learn constantly. But again, I think I've said it, but the more I learn from people who focus on GI health, and the people who focus on adrenal health, and people who focus on thyroid, and those who focus on H. pylori, it all starts the same. It's always about that lifestyle, that inflammation, which is what the Empowered Healing program was before I even realized how many offshoots there were from that. But that's where they start. They don't want to treat the H. pylori till inflammation is reduced and the immune system is strengthened. They don't want to deal with The thyroid
and
until
honestly,
the cortisol and adrenals and stress is balanced. So,
and that is quite frankly the approach, you know, like as I'm doing some of my own research for my company, it's almost any condition, arthritis, some other things that we could totally talk about, but maybe not. The big C is another one that also, you know, it's inflammation.
Which one did you say?
The big C.
Big C.
Yeah, it's all inflammation.
Yeah. And calming the immune system. So whether it's
calming and strengthening.
Yeah. Calming and strengthening. I like that. Calm and strong. That'll be the program. But I mean, yeah, it's because you had GI issues, you had migraines, IBS, and that's what the program initially was way back when it was first created. That food sensitivity tailored IBS, fibromyalgia, and migraines. Those were the big three. And in the 10, 15, 20 years since then, they've just expanded, realizing how much that root cause is always the same. Yeah. Stems from there. But
and that's truly the thing. It all stems from that root cause, which is always the same.
Always the same. Liver, gut, liver, gut, liver, gut.
Liver, gut, liver, gut, liver, gut.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the immune system, which all plays into that. So,
well, liver, gut is the immune system.
Among other things.
But primary
Good
driver.
Stuff. I'm really excited to see the progress you've made, Andee, and I have loved chatting with you every week. It's fun.
Yeah.
And I hope it empowers other people. And if I should get some of my other clients to talk to, it's just so easy. We have our weekly chat, so it's all set up. And you're very open about it. I know other people, you know, respect privacy. I'm big on that, but yeah, just.
Whereas I'm like, shout it from the rooftops. Like,
I know,
let's get it out there. Guys, I've stopped. Well, and no, but I've gained my life back. Like literally, I have gotten my life back. Because like I said, I was to the point of, well, I'm either going to die or I'm going to kill myself. One of these two things is going to happen. But now I'm like, wow, I'm submitting NIH grants and I'm submitting state of Ohio grants and I'm going to be funded by the end of the year because it's going to happen. You heard it first here.
Yes, and you're going to run a 5K with me.
And I'm going to run a 5K with Kate.
And maybe next year we'll do an obstacle course race together.
Yes. I'm here for it.
So I guess summary of all that, even a complex case, a mystery illness, there are things that you can do. So whether you want to reach out to me, work with me, or just know that there are functional medicine practitioners who do the same things I do. Like we are all learning. I mean, we all do things a little bit differently, but this is our bread and butter is the liver, gut, inflammation. So whether you want to reach out to me or reach out to somebody in your area, look for a functional medicine practitioner, holistic doctor, MD who worked with Kalish, who whatever it is. Like, if conventional medicine isn't answering your questions, find more resources. There are people out there. There are people trained in all of this.
And there's more answers.
Yeah.
There are answers. Know that there are answers. It's just a matter of finding the people who can ask the right question.
Yes. Perfect timing as something fell on the floor.
Yeah, I was gonna say perfect timing as my ring like dinged
like the raindrop.
Yep, exactly. It was universal sound to indicate how great Kate is.
Oh, well, that is it for today, I guess.
Yeah, sounds good.
We kind of went off on a tangent there at the end, but I guess it just again stresses like my passion for it, your excitement for it, and because you were suffering.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it, guys. Have an awesome day. So that's Andee's update and what we can do for you. Again, there shouldn't ever be fully restricted diets for life because 9 times out of 10 that list just starts getting smaller and smaller
and smaller and smaller.
So reach out
and smaller.
Yeah, so reach out to somebody, find answers, get the MRT test and LEAP protocol, get lifestyle coaching, get GI map tests. Those are kind of some of the staple labs that are going to give you the right answers to personalize your program.
Yep. Test, don't guess, and then personalize.
So, awesome. Let us know if you have any other questions, and we'll talk to you hopefully in a week.
All right. Bye, gang.
Bye.